Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn, episode 398 tonight. And should be more than 400 by now. I'm sorry. I have missed quite a few shows. This is April, and even into May has been pretty crazy. A lot of travel, both driving and flying. I think I did everything but take a train, and but I did the plane and the car. And I was bouncing all over South Carolina, Florida, Texas, back to South Carolina, Atlanta last week, Toronto just the other day. So it's been crazy. I've been unable to be here for personal reasons, work reasons, travel mostly, and I apologize for being away for a little bit. But I'm here with you tonight. Going to do probably not a full hour. I'm by myself. Just kind of want to talk about a pretty current hot topic that working on a couple guests, got some stuff going on, getting that busy season, trying to get some folks lined up, but had a couple that we're trying to get this week, but they're on the road doing things and just aren't able to make it happen, but we will get them in soon. But first, before I get too much into this show, I want to definitely, reach out and thank our sponsors, Marvita, where Toby's at. Still doing great things down there in Cabo. If you want to do some awesome sport fishing, that's the place to go. And Toby's the guy to see. You can tell him you're a fan of the show and you've been here, and I know he'll hook you up. Definitely check out Alpha Elite Performance. It's where I get all my supplements at. Our good buddy Travis Wookie Wilson over there, who owns Alpha Elite. And Alpha Elite Outdoors, he runs that, which kind of is picked up from what Toby used to do as far as expeditions and a nonprofit doing hunting and fishing trips for very deserving vets. But Alpha Elite Performance, it's where I get my pre-workout, get everything at. So check them out. Boohammer.com, grillyourassoff.com, our buddy over there, and the guys, great guys and gals at grillyourassoff.com. But go see Jason. And Gear for Grunts, our buddy Doug. So I want to thank our sponsors. We don't do that all the time. Sometimes we just have a guest, we throw right into it, and we get on with it. But want to talk about this CIA whistleblower that came up yesterday. Rand Paul had him on in front of his subcommittee, and had him. He was, no one knew who he was. No one knew his name until he sat down and they saw his nameplate. There was no pre-read given to the media or anything like that, and it was pretty earth-shattering, but at the same time, not a lot of surprises, but I guess some validation of surprises. Sorry, just talking to Rob, the producer, real quick. So we'll see. Rob may be joining me tonight too. But so this guy named James Erdman III, lifelong CIA analyst, was actually Army Ranger, had deployments, but had worked at the CIA for a long time. Sorry, I'm reading over some of the text over here on the side. And he was the surprise guest. Obviously, if anyone that's watched some of the subcommittee hearings when it was about originations of COVID and all that stuff, know that Rand Paul has went after Anthony Fauci quite a bit, and I think everyone's pretty clear that there was a whole bunch of hard spin from the government's both administrations about the origination and was it some bat, or was it a lab leak, was it purposely released, and all that kind of stuff. And we've all learned a lot of lessons. I'll say that, right? We I think many of us at the start of COVID in March and April of 2020 thought that, we thought this was turning into a movie and half the population was get wiped out, and we did all kind of crazy, dumb things, and the whole country shut down because we didn't know any better. But in hindsight, like most things, it's 2020. Now we know. So that it wasn't, maybe it was absolutely bad. It was dangerous for many. It was killed many. I've known many people that, have had long-term effects from it, that kind of thing. So there's no doubt about that, but it wasn't the pandemic as many let out to be in the narrative was. I mean, when CNN starts running a death toll, it's a spin from one side. And as a good friend of mine that has worked in a long time in emergency response and WMD type operation stuff, said, hey, if they're not burning bodies, then it's not a pandemic. Well, that's kind of what I went with. Also, if you can just take a bandana from your glove box and that can protect you, in addition to walking one way down a Walmart aisle, then it's probably not a pandemic. But anyways, so one thing that came, I guess, before I start this, obviously it was yesterday, Wednesday, May 13th, when this happened. Sadly, and this is a question I would love to get answered, is it was 2 days after the statute of limitations ended to charge Anthony Fauci for his involvement in misleading the public and the world on the originations of COVID and everything he did to suppress that. Now, everyone knew that was coming. They were talking about that weeks before. I don't know why. Rand Paul waited so 2 days after to decide that he was going to have him in front of Congress and publicly expose himself as a whistleblower. Which, by the way, the CIA did not. He's still a CIA employee. They did not authorize him or clear him to go there, but he got subpoenaed, so he kind of had to go. They were not in support of it, which is kind of weird because the Trump administration, appoints the head of the CIA, but obviously they have a shadow leadership that does whatever they want. But they still, 2 days after the statute of limitations run out, everyone knew what date the statute of limitations were going to run out, and they did not do this beforehand. Now, there may be ways to open things back up or do whatever. I don't know. But it gives me an initial feeling like, was this whole thing just a way to ruin a reputation, but not really, charge somebody? Why would you wait till after if you really want to hold someone accountable and he's the one you want to hold accountable? Why would you not charge him before the statute of limitations ran out? He did have a blanket pardon issued by, at the time, President Biden, to him and a whole bunch of other people, but there's been since been deemed not valid, at least by the current administration, President Trump, because it was done by the auto pen. Of course, that has not been taken up to the courts. Obviously, when the concept of a pardon came out, there's no thing if there was, the founding fathers were not sitting there going, oh, except if it's not done with, it's got to be hand signed. There was no concept of anything but hand signed. So President Trump says he doesn't consider it valid. Obviously, that means the Department of Justice doesn't. I don't know when or if that will ever make its way up to the courts, but at some point they'll probably have to decide that. But either way, it was not. This did not come out. His testimony didn't happen until 2 days after, so it may be all for nothing, right? It just make people hate Fauci more, or realize that he definitely was behind this. If you go off this man's testimony, sworn testimony. But anyways, so James Erdman III. He testified. He's been an analyst for a long time. Looks like through many administrations. He was worked in a joint role with the Director of National Intelligence Director Initiatives Group to investigate the COVID origination. He talked. I watched a good part of it. If you haven't, it'd be worth going on and watching his testimony. He does not pull any punches. Very professional, very tactful. But he does. He has dates. He doesn't usually look at cards or notes. I mean, he has this stuff memorized. Obviously, he's been very involved in it. So, one thing that was noted was, it wasn't until after the 2024 election and the Biden administration knew that they were on their way out, that they told the CIA to issue an assessment, so that they could say, there was nothing there. The problem is, Mr. Erdman's testimony is that Anthony Fauci injected himself in the middle of the findings of the dig when they were investigating everything, and he came forward to himself. He came forward to the intelligence community to say, "Hey, I'm an expert. Obviously, I'm the head of the NIH and this and that. Everyone know, all that kind of stuff." And he goes, "I have other specialists with me," and he brought all these other, gave them names of scientists and specialists and super smart people. This is, "Hey, I'll offer these people up to work with you," and they read them on to the CIA, and he had already made sure that they said what he wanted them to say. And the CIA obviously has smart people. They have scientists and that stuff, but they don't have maybe the depth and the width of the knowledge of these people that work in the sciences and health community. That's all the time, right? They probably have scientists that work for the CIA, but not to that level. So they welcomed this expertise in, and he made sure that according to this whistleblower, that he changed the narrative. According to him, there were scientists and people part of the digs who were investigating this COVID leak, who had determined it definitely was a lab leak. And I think he used the dates. I want to say it was around like June 14th or August 14th. I don't remember the exact dates, but he was like, they came up with this on one date, and Anthony Fauci got himself in there, and 3 days later they issued the guidance totally different, that no, it wasn't a lab leak, it was natural, blah blah blah. He even talked about a CIA contractor who talked to someone, and they, who supported that it was a lab leak, and that person's contract was immediately terminated. That person was fired. And that, he said that many of the analysts that did the work, the smart people on the ground that did the work, were very upset that upper management changed their whole write-up, their whole narrative, findings and everything, and said, nope, we're going with this. So, that is definitely very, very concerning, that you kind of, like how we depended on CDC. Like, I used to say before COVID, people would look at the WHO, World Health Organization, or the CDC, and organizations like that, even the intelligence community and so on and so forth, and many, if not most, law enforcement agencies, as agnostic to the administration it's in, right? Granted, people are political appointed, right? The head of FBI, the head of the Justice Department, the Attorney General, and different, they're appointed. They're going to carry the water, if you would, of the administration that appointed them, right? That happens in everyone. It's happening now. It's happening in every other one. But the rank and file, the people that work and do 10, 15, 20 plus years in an agency performing law enforcement or investigative or intelligence operations, should be blind to who's in charge, because that's going to change every 4 years anyways, and just do their job as they were hired to do and charged to do. But it looks like, for whatever reason, who knows why, they were motivated, and it looks like mostly by Anthony Fauci, according to his testimony, that they were changed because he wanted to change. Now everyone says, why is it a big deal if Anthony Fauci did this? Well, he kind of has competing interests, because he provided millions, I don't think it's billions, but it could be millions of dollars in funding to the Wuhan lab, right? So through directly or through other agencies or NGOs or whatever, maybe research, universities, all that kind of stuff. So he gave a lot of U.S. taxpayer dollars that was at his disposal to do, in the role that he had, to the Wuhan lab to study this gain of function research. And then this gain of function research, if I could paraphrase it, I mean, it's been a while since we've heard these terms, I know, and if anyone's out there, definitely a lot more people smarter in science and stuff than me can definitely comment and correct. But essentially, the gain of function research, you're taking something like a disease, and how can you make it worse? How can you weaponize it? How can you enhance it? And that kind of stuff, the gain of function. Or how can you add more to it than what it does? It's like if you took the common cold and were able to isolate the germs that cause that, and we're able to modify the genes of it and all that kind of stuff, and make it deadly or make it this or whatever. That's what gain of function research was. So they were doing this gain of function research in Wuhan, China. Why there? Because we didn't want it done here. There's probably laws against it. I think I heard there was. But we didn't want it done in the U.S., so we let the China scientists do it, and some of them died from it. They got initially exposed, that we know of. Who knows what else happened? But so Anthony Fauci funded that, and obviously it blew up into a pandemic. It got out, whether purposely released or on accident through poor, procedures and no safety controls. And, if he's the one that paid for it, does not look good. So obviously there's a huge motive for him to help cover this up. And that's what this whistleblower came out with, right? He said straight up that Fauci suppressed the COVID origins. Says it needs to be investigated, it needs to be cramped. But he said so Fauci was the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease director, and he, like I said, forced his way by saying, "Hey, I'm here to help," to the CIA, and bringing scientists and doctors, and made sure that they said the same thing enough times that they just went, "Well, they're the smart guys. I guess they know what they're saying." Is a pretty major thing. Like I said, another one is, I talked about appointees, is, the CIA, Director Ratcliffe is appointed. He is the head of the CIA, but the CIA disavowed this whistleblower and said, it was unprofessional. The CIA is also saying that, as they assessed after the fact, well after the fact, that it most likely originated from a lab. But even that is not strong enough when you say most likely. But it's just the hidden and the non-transparency of all this is what's ticking people off. I mean, the gentleman Erdeman said that members of that group called the Diggs Group, he claimed, and I'm assuming he has evidence, were monitored, tracked, and spied upon by the CIA itself on their own people, because they knew what they were doing. Their whole charge was to find the origins as best they could of COVID, and the CIA was spying on them, tapping their phones and doing it. That's a whole other hill of beans, right? Of doing surveillance on Americans and that kind of stuff. Another big thing that came out of it was not one Democrat showed up. It's a subcommittee of bipartisan, equal represented, from both the left and the right, and from Democrats and Republicans. There's the chairman, which is the chairman is from the party, whoever is in power of the House or Senate, whatever. And then the ranking member is the one that is the most senior one of the party. It's not in charge of the House or Senate. None of the Democrats came. Total of 7 Democrats sit on that subcommittee. And, this, I don't see COVID, even though people made it a political thing. And I never understood that. I've talked about it on here a few times. They made it a political event. Like if you wanted to wear a mask or not wear a mask, supposedly determined how you voted. People died of all political affiliations, of no political affiliation, of every race, gender, either of the two. Whether no matter what religion they practiced, no matter what their sexuality was, it didn't matter. It killed all kind of people. You would think that elected representatives, who are asked and tasked with, carrying out the actions of something that a subcommittee is supposed to do, will show up, either disprove the person, ask hard questions, or really just generally be concerned for, what the topic is. And this one is, what is the true origin of COVID? So you got a person that came out that has worked. We don't know his political affiliation at all. He was a whistleblower. He saw something that he didn't feel was right, and his integrity was to stand up and put himself and his career seriously at risk by doing it. Warrants the courtesy of coming to hear him out on this case, asking hard questions, and then you can take away from that whether you believe or don't believe it, don't care, whatever. But to totally ignore and not do your job, I mean, that is their job. The rules of Congress need to be changed. If Congress does that, the ruling party should be like, okay, well, you're off the committee, your subcommittee, and I'll replace you with who I want. which means all Republicans. Like there needs to be something that you don't get to not go in. If your job is to, do whatever, flip burgers, this, that, yeah, you can call in sick and all that kind of stuff. But when you boycott your employment and refuse to come in based on some principle, ideology, or something like that, they can terminate you. You can call in and lie and say, "Oh, I'm sick," right? But if you're just like, "No, I don't believe in what we're doing today. I don't believe the I don't believe in the customer I'm there to service. They're a tobacco company and I hate cigarettes, so I'm not coming. I'm boycotting." Any employer would be like, "Cool, we'll send your check to you," right? But 7 Democrats failed to show up. They could, again, validated what he said and whatever, asked hard questions, shot holes through it. That's your chance, right? You can't claim bipartisanship. You can't say you're there for the benefit of the people when you're not showing up to do your job because your party heads told you not to show up and disregard it. Which is pretty good. And a pretty, thing to note for all voters that I think they need to question. Whoever those 7 members are, their voters in their states and localities, come the next election cycle, if someone's running against them, I hope they bring that up. And if they have a debate, they ask that question: why did you not go? Right? Whether you believe or don't like the person at all. But yeah, so another big thing was, the CIA, he said, Erdeman, that they did not comply with the oversight during the Diggs investigation. They held information back. They violated standards. They did all that kind of stuff. And, there's no accountability for it. One thing he said in his testimony was one reason why he was there was the only way to get an agency's attention is by the purse strings. And he's absolutely right. I mean, the Congress can withhold. They pass the budgets. They can withhold funding and all that kind of stuff. It comes back to the time-tested analogy of a carrot and a stick, right? So the stick is you take the funding away, and then someone will comply. And what his whole thing was why he was there was like, look, pull back the purse strings, make them divulge this information. If an agency, regardless who it is, has a congressional mandate or a constitutional mandate to provide info and to hand over stuff because of that's the way it's been documented and passed in law or written in the Constitution, whatever it may be, then that's what you have to do. And it is it's a pretty key thing to be able to, a pretty difficult thing to be able to do that if you have no funding. So that was the thing. He pretty much told Rand Paul and a few others there that you need to withhold the funding. You need to do that. Well, obviously, if 7 senators don't show up to hear the subcommittee, then they're not going to vote for that. I'm assuming obviously the GOP's in charge so they have the majority of the members on that subcommittee. But it just really shouldn't be down those political lines. Everyone should care about the old people in the nursing homes in New York that just died by the dozens, or, by the people that were, just not taken care of or did not take whatever may happen. However, they got infected and got it. Because again, death does not look at your voting record, party card, anything about you, any demographic, does not care. So it's something that's probably one of the most disturbing things. One, I guess my most disturbing thing is, one, they waited till 2 days after, and two, that half the subcommittee roughly boycotted the hearing when I don't think anyone considers finding out where this world wrecking disease came from and doing the investigation. Someone's come out and says, well, we know where it came from. We're the premier top intelligence agency in the world. We know where it came from. But a guy who is also the most highest paid government employee, $400,000 a year, was funneling millions upon millions into this lab that it was leaked from. Now, again, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean, you know, the U.S. made a decision. They wanted this kind of thing done over there. And, doesn't mean that it would have leaked or not leaked if we hadn't been like, maybe it would have leaked faster if we hadn't been given money. Maybe they wouldn't have had as good, maybe the safety protocols would have broke down a lot sooner. But but giving the money to him and all that kind of stuff, I mean, he could have still testified, said, yeah, we did. We thought it was the right thing. We were doing this research. We had a mandate. It was whatever. We're doing it for these positive purposes for the U.S. And they somehow made a mistake. Somebody dropped a vial. I don't know. However it happened, it happened. But when he started not doing that, tried to wash his hands of it, and then went through all this stuff, that's pretty damning. You look really, really guilty than just being say, yeah, we funded it. We thought they were a legitimate lab. They were supposed to do it, and someone made a mistake, because that happens. But they could have also probably helped out and said, here's what we found. Here's a way to fight it. Here's what you can do. Instead, we're hearing everything from wear a bandana to wash your packages off or mail off for 20 minutes. So it's just dumb stuff, right? Walk different aisles down the friggin' store. They probably could have helped, being the scientists and doctors. Said, yeah, we've been working with the Chinese scientists. We know what they developed. This is an antidote or this or that or whatever. But so I wanted to cover this. I wanted to do this show. I didn't want this to sit too long. Because this is pretty huge. I mean, I think all of us that are over the age of 20 can say that, COVID really wrecked anyone younger, probably not a whole bunch, a little bit, but school kids and stuff. But for any adult can say that COVID had a major impact on their life. As we all sat around and watched Tiger King, and people, the market crashed, the world stopped, everything just, it was almost like a reset. I remember those first couple of years after 22 and 23, people were like, oh, was that before COVID? Like, it was just, because it was like a year of blur, about a year and a half of blurriness of just like, and we reference a lot of things still today of, we did that pre-COVID. Like we got together and we met, or we had meetings pre-COVID. Now we do it all online, or these kind of things were done pre-COVID. It was a monumental event in our country and our world, and it's still with us today. I mean, it's there's a lot of horrific things that have happened, in my time on this planet, from President Reagan being shot, the Columbia disaster, Challenger. I mean, all kind of different things, right? 9/11. Yeah, we would say some stuff pre 9/11, but not really. I mean, this affected our lives. So it is, to me, it was a pretty big deal, and I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to highlight a couple things that bothered me. Like I said, one, that half the people weren't there, the Democrats, making it ultra freaking political. But also the happening 2 days after the statute of limitations worked out, which sounds sketchy on surface, like someone's like kind of trying to be a hard ass and look into it, but at the same time not wanting to hurt someone too bad. I don't know, just speculating, but it doesn't look good. So, we got to. I wanted to bring that up. I mean, it is, it's right up there with the 9/11 Commission. It's right up there with, any other big investigation thing that happens where, Congress is supposed to convene a group of people together, or committee or whatever, and look into something that was, very damaging to our country and our world, but definitely our country. And I just feel like this is kind of not gotten all the attention it was supposed to. I also think the UFO stuff, but I can't get into that tonight. But I mean, I haven't had a chance to even look into the data dump from last week that the Department of War put up of all the UFO files. Obviously, I've seen all the highlights, like probably many of you have seen the pictures and video, but it still just gets me that for years and years we were like, we know there's an Area 51, we know there's spacemen, and we've got their bodies and all that stuff, and everybody's always speculated, and hey, spacemen and all this kind of stuff. Then it literally starts becoming admitted by the government with pictures and video and audio recordings and all this stuff, and everybody's like, yeah, it's terror, it's crazy. I hope I don't run into one. Like, I don't know what we're so preoccupied with, or we've been so numbed and just our senses just taken down that we like, oh yeah, there's aliens or somewhere. I don't know. Do they pay taxes? Like, do their ships flame up like our ships do when they come through space? They got some way it doesn't happen. Are they walking amongst us in masks and costumes like we see in the movies? Yeah, I don't know, but that is a major thing. Hasn't gotten a lot of attention. This is a major thing. An active CIA, lifelong CIA analyst who was a part of investigating the COVID origination, comes out and says the CIA changed everything, did not do it, did not say what the analysts found, did not admit what we were charged to go find this out. We found it out, and they go, nope, we're going to say something different. People should be blown up about that. Obviously now when it's all about the president being in China, that's a big deal. But I mean, this is like a big oh crap moment. Like, everyone should be freaking out about all this alien stuff that's coming out, but really on the topic of tonight is that they found it and our premier intelligence agency suppressed it and changed the narrative for some reason. And I think that more people should be paying attention to that. I've been trying to research more of his testimony. I hope the dude keeps his job. I don't know if he's going to face any retribution in the agency or whatever, but I hope that he's protected. Yeah. I am yawning a lot tonight. I'm sorry. I hope he's protected, and I hope he keeps his job, and I hope it empowers others to, where they see something where their integrity has been put on the line, that they know is dishonest, that they know does not support the charter and the mission they've been given as in their agency and their job from the American people and the American taxpayer. I hope it encourages, others to come out to talk about stuff. You don't have to divulge every secret. We don't want that, obviously. We don't want to hurt our nation. But when our government's hurting us, and this is our government hurting us, then that's a pretty big deal. So it is it's something that people need to keep on the forefront and don't let the media push off to the side. But I know it's just me talking tonight. Did not get a chance to watch the chat, do all that kind of stuff and everything. But if you have any comments, agree with me, disagree with me, whatever, please comment. I hope you're commenting, and any comment, continue on the Facebook page, on YouTube, anywhere that you're watching this. Like to hear your thoughts. Anytime in the future, I'd be glad to get back on, talk about it if you change my mind on something or want to get on, debate something like that. If you're like pro Fauci or pro cover, I don't know. Maybe I missed an important hot issue that I did not cover and you think it should be covered. I'll definitely look at that and can always bring it up, but can give you credit or keep you anonymous. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you hadn't had a chance to really keep up with the news and watch it, maybe this will get you to go back and watch some of the stuff that came out of that, several hour hearing yesterday. I mentioned earlier, I got a scroll in at the bottom, grill your ass off. You got a 15% coupon at grillyourassoff.com. Put in Stu and the Nunn. You can see it scrolling on the bottom. Great stuff. I use it all. Any of our sponsors and stuff like that, anyone that we promote on here are direct known people that are friends, use their products, have, and a lot of them still do, and our support of them is not just because they're a sponsor. It's because we like the product or service that they provide. So check them out at grillyourassoff.com. Use Stu and the Nunn, dude. 15% off ain't no joke. So go check their stuff out. They got a lot of great things. So yeah. With that said, I'm going to let it wrap it up and let you have the rest of the evening back. Again, apologize for not being here for a number of weeks, and hope we get better on that. Hope we can get Toby back in some more. It's been hard to grab some of his time get his unique perspective and voice. Obviously, he's half the show, really a third now with me, him, and Rob. Rob is, I think I should change his name to the unpaid and unnamed producer. But anyways, thank you all for joining. If you've got friends, people whatever you think would be a good guest because of something they've done, it falls within the genre of the show, please reach out to us. Let us know who it is and how to contact them. Also, be sure to share the show with friends, family, and those you don't even like. And if we get better getting guests on, then it'll make it a lot more enjoyable to come see every week. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening. God bless.